If there's one thing I would say that a solid brand and its identity gives that money can't buy, that is get those things right, and you're on a pretty firm base for having a rock solid brand.
Why do so many businesses have brands that suck?
It's all about audience. It's got nothing to do with the people that are producing stuff. The audience is key.
Hi, and welcome to The Marketing Game. I'm Gillan Williams, and today I'm joined with Warren Brown, who's an expert in brand visual identity. And what he says, the difference between marketing and branding is marketing is the doing and branding is the being. It's the emotion behind it, the feeling. And you want to take what he says seriously. The guys work with the European Space Agency, with Citroën, with Porsche. So let's get into it. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, and why would the viewers, I don't mean this facetiously, why would they want to listen to you? Like, what do you bring into the table?
Okay, I've been branding and making businesses, people and services look great for the last 25 years. My strength and foundation is graphic design, so all the visual designing, all the visual aspects of a brand. And logo and brand identity is my superpower and passion. I consider myself a bridge between my clients and their audience. So I deeply connect with my clients to help them in turn deeply connect with their audience. Using deep strategic discovery and beautiful, meaningful design, I give businesses a powerful tool to express themselves and their story out into the world. So I like to work with exciting projects with lovely, fun, energetic people that see the value in what I do. So I help businesses look how they need to look, to attract who they want to attract, to be who they want to be.
That's your elevator pitch. What is it that makes you passionate about your work? Like, why you've been doing this for, like you said, 25 years?
Yeah.
That's a lot of motivation to maintain.
Absolutely, it is. Putting smiles on faces. Okay, I absolutely love what I do day in, day out. I love putting smiles on the faces of my clients. So they, in turn, the way they look, it puts a smile on the face of their audience. But at the same time, it's a smile on my face, knowing that I've done a fantastic job for my clients, which in turn gets my reputation out there.
Right. And before we go into the questions I have prepared for you, there's something that I've been wrangling with at the moment, and that's who exactly I'm doing my work for, because I work in video production and also work with corporate brands like yourself. And what I've realized increasingly that I have to walk the line between communicating with the brand to deliver what they want, whilst really having the audience in mind when I'm creating the content, because ultimately it's what they're going to respond to that defines whether this is successful or not.
Absolutely, yeah. It's all about audience. It's got nothing to do with the people that are producing stuff. The audience is key. I mean, a brand is massive. A brand is huge. I deal with the visual aspect of a brand, but a brand in itself is intangible. It's an invisible layer of meaning, an aura that surrounds a business product or service or person even. And a brand is a gut feeling. The famous Marty Neumeier, he's a branding expert in Silicon Valley in the States. He says that a brand is a gut feeling. It's something that your audience decides. Now, the more people that have that gut feeling, that is what decides you have a brand. So it's an emotional attachment and attraction to a business that creates this brand.
So how much of it is dictated by the audience and by the brand managers?
Everything's dictated by the audience. The best that a brand manager, designer, marketeer can do is influence the buying decisions by the audience by having a great product, a great message, a great service, and of course, great design to attract that audience in.
Right. Okay. And that's going to bring us round to our first question, which is why do so many businesses have brands that suck? Like, surely they should understand that.
Yeah, they should. It comes down to a number of things, really. They do it themselves because as a startup business, they might have a great idea, but they have no money. So the only way that they can do that is doing it themselves, and quite often that brand then grows with the business, but it still stays the same. I'll cite, and this is my humble opinion, I'll cite one that I see at the moment is Gymshark. I feel that Gymshark has got a fantastic product. They're in a very busy market. But their visual identity lets them down. I mean, they've got this shark, logo icon, which doesn't actually look like a shark. I mean, when you think about sharks, what's the first thing you think about? Or what's the first thing I think about? Because I'm a kid of the 70s and Jaws. It's a shark's fin. So
right.
It's just the identity they've got at the moment doesn't compete with the simplicity of the identities of Under Armour, of Nike, of Adidas. I know they've been around a long, long time. That's fine. I know that Gymshark are new to the market, but I think the product has overtaken the brand itself. Although I think it's starting to change, and I think they realise that.
Okay, and that's an interesting phrase you coined there. So the product's overtaken the brand. Let's pick that apart. What do you mean by that?
Well, it's the idea that Ben Francis had originally. Well, I think he made his own clothes, and I think a lot was invested, time, energy, and money was invested in the product itself, and he probably designed the brand himself or the identity himself. And like I said before, it's just gone on. It's just gone on, and it's just grown to that extent with the business. But it still doesn't represent them in the marketplace they're in. They still look a little bit out of kilter with the other big players in that market. So that's having no money or doing it themselves from the start is one thing. But then also there are businesses that just see it, well, it's not important. It has no value. It has a logo. They've got a logo, but the logo, it's just a logo, isn't it? Where they don't understand or have the knowledge of the deeper meaning of that logo being the face of a business. It's the pinnacle, of a brand. But there's so much more underneath the surface of branding. But people just don't. Some businesses probably don't value that. And again, it depends what market you're in. I mean, the scientific market probably don't, their product is far more important than the brand, and the brand is less important. And I get that, but if it's business to customer, then the brand probably needs to be far more powerful. So that's why some businesses have bad, or less wonderful branding or brand identities.
Okay, just to quickly come back to Gymshark, what would you do differently? How would you improve their brand?
I've already done it. It's on my Instagram feed. I just took it as a case study once because I thought, yeah, that could have been done better. And there's lots of designers that actually, designers in social media and TikTok and Instagram and the like, where they take current brands and they add their value and their twist to it.
So how much difference does it make having a brand that doesn't suck? Because like you said, it's expensive to invest into it.
Yeah.
What kind of return on investment can you expect to get?
Well, it's the emotional attachment. Yeah, it's about aligning. It's about designing and looking attractive to the audience that you want to bring in. Okay, that audience is going to the brand you design or the brand identity is going to be a reflection of their personality. So it's the messages behind it are going to attract and appeal to certain people, and they're going to resonate with different brands. For instance, why do people buy Nike trainers over Adidas? I mean, they're very similar. They're similar sportswear, but why do people lean towards Nike, for instance? Or there's driving a car. Why do people drive Audis over Volvos? I know that there's different aspects. Again, they're both cars, but Volvos have always been the safe car. Audis and BMWs have always been the grunty cars. So it's what appeals to people's personalities, values, character. That's why people are drawn into brands. And like I say, the identity is just one part of appealing to those people.
Okay, so are you saying that a brand that works well attracts the audience, but then that brand becomes part of their own identity and the way that they communicate who they are to the world, and so that's the goal you're trying to achieve?
Yeah. It's the gut feeling again. It's like Martin Neumeyer says. It's what people say about you when you're not in the room. It's the gut feeling that people are drawn to, and a well-conceived brand shows that you've got a good understanding of your business and who your business is targeting.
Right. Okay. And then I guess the ultimate goal is that your audience then become brand ambassadors.
They do. It builds trust, loyalty, attraction, and at the end of the day, I mean, we've just been talking about sports and car brands, but this applies to all businesses. At the end of the day, once you've built up this brand equity, and the trust and the loyalty and the attraction that comes in, that's what makes a brand valuable. As the years go by, once you've built up that's what financially valuable, and that's what a lot of people don't realise, that the power of a brand identity adds to that.
So you've identified who the brand is, so they've given you their sort of brand identity, but then do you spend time identifying, their existing audience, but then I guess if, just to change track again, if they're doing a rebrand, their target audience, because that might not be the same.
Yeah, rebrand is a different kettle of fish, really. Although it's still part of the branding process, but there's valid reasons why you should rebrand if it's needed. It should be done at the right, when all these valuable questions have been asked from the start. But rebrand is when a business there's new players in the market, there's new competition that they're surrounded by, and they've still got the original identity or brand look and feel, and they need to revamp that to get themselves ahead of the game again, or the business has changed through various different reasons. It's changed, or it needs to improve, or it's discovered things about the business that it needs to change. That can stimulate a need for a rebrand. Also, there's if they get monetary investment and they actually realise that the brand and the brand identity that they've got isn't working for them anymore, then some businesses, quite a few years down the line, invest in their brand identity then, when they're entering new markets, or when they've grown and they've matured to a level where they feel they need it to help their business move on.
Right. And you mentioned maturing there, and that made me think of some of the old action sports brands that rebranded not so long ago. And Weird Fish is an example I got in my head, where they were quite edgy when I was young.
Yes.
But I think that what they've had to do is they've literally matured their branding, because their target audience have literally matured. I mean, you're talking 20 years down the line, and they're not appealing to kids, they're appealing to dads and mums now.
And that all comes from the start of knowing who your audience is from the start. And if your audience changes, or the audience has a new set of beliefs, or the business knows who they want to target. For instance, if they wanted to target the younger age group, going back 20 years ago with Weird Fish, it's cutting edge surfy type of stuff. If they still want to stick to those values and the audience has, just through the nature of culture and time, the audience has changed, and the business has to adapt to that. Otherwise, other competitors in the market will overtake them.
And so, how, practically speaking, if you're a new brand, or you're not a large brand, for argument's sake, and you want to target your audience better, what process do you go through to identify your target audience? Because I guess that's the keystone, isn't it? And then everything sort of builds off that. Is that right?
Yeah. It's the question asking. It's the whole question asking at the beginning of the creative process, because the question asking, like I say, it brings problems to the surface. It helps a business understand itself better as well. There are things that questions that I might ask that the business has not even thought of, and that all these questions that I have help to formulate a brief for me to do my creative stuff. So they're absolutely imperative.
Right. Okay. And I guess a business needs access to data to be able to accurately answer those questions. So if, what's your demographic? You got to know the age range. You got to know the genders. You got to know the territories.
Absolutely. But some businesses don't. And this goes back to the start question, why do some businesses have bad branding? Because they haven't got the knowledge, they haven't got the expertise, they think they can do it themselves, they think that the questions, these are our customers, this is what they do, they think that's enough, but it's not. It's not refined enough. The questions aren't refined enough.
Is that the danger of working by assumption? Because when you start a brand, you have to put yourself out. That's a business. You put yourself out there. It takes a certain level of self-confidence. I wonder whether that means you can then fall into the trap of assuming that you know exactly who you're trying to sell to, whereas in reality, you're selling to maybe a market that you aspire to, or you assume that you are, but you're actually not. And then there has to be that reality check of, who exactly is or isn't buying my product, and are these the people that I should be targeting?
That's exactly right, and that's the instance where businesses need to change. If they discover that who they thought they were targeting, or who's buying from it, has changed, then the business itself has to evolve to attract those people back, or attract new people from the start. It's defining it through questioning.
Do you ever find that sometimes you might have a tension where a business owner has a very firm idea of what the brand should be and who their audience should be, and in reality, I think you already know the question I'm asking, that's not based in reality, and how do you deal with that?
Diplomatically. I've been doing this a long time. I don't know all the questions. I don't know the businesses that I'm dealing with anywhere near as deep as the business owners or the directors, whoever. But I think when you put forward this knowledge, you can create aha moments with businesses. They go, okay, I see what this guy's getting at now. He's actually making a valid point. And it's all about sparking thought. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. My thought, my experience and stuff that I put forward, and the questions that I ask, spark thought with the client. The client then comes forward with the questions, we've not thought about that, or I have got an answer for that, and those answers then help me weave that path to a creative result.
Okay, so what's the most important thing about branding that most businesses don't understand and you wish that they did?
There's fourfold, in my opinion. The 4 S's. I mean, we've covered some of this in the conversation earlier anyway, but strategy. That's the one that I've banged on about through this podcast. Strategy, asking the questions, asking these questions, which builds this foundation the whole brand and its identity is built on. The next one is story, narrative. It's eking out the story behind the business. If there's anything unique and different about that business which I can bring forward in its in a visual identity. So anything that clever that I can bring forward, anything that the business is built on through its story and narrative. The next one is standout, differentiation. So being original, memorable, aligned with values and the personality and reputation of that business. So it's making it stand out and be different from its nearest competitors, even if those competitors are big. The brands that I design need to look as good as, if not better than, the biggest in the industry. That's the way that I think, and the way that I work. And the last one is structure, brand identity guidelines. So I don't take on visual identity, brand identity projects without the client realizing that they need something to take forward to give consistency of use of assets, and consistency of the whole visual system that I've designed. Colours, logo uses, colours, typography, font pairing, space around graphic elements, textures, shapes. There's a whole gamut of stuff that help other users keep the holistic and unified field of a brand and stop it being messy and dilute. So keeping it as strong as I originally intended. So strategy, story, standout, and structure. Get those things right, and you're on a pretty firm base for having a rock solid brand moving forward.
I'm just going to pause for a second and tell the audience, if you don't know about brand stories, then go to claritycourses.com. We have the Storytelling for Business course. It's absolutely free. The link will be in the description. And in that is a course that I've recorded on how to identify your brand story, identify your audience and all the important parts. I won't go too much into it now, but if you're interested in knowing what that is, go and do the free course because it will be invaluable to you and your branding. And consistency is something else that you mentioned there. And I think that that's so important because I think that what you can do with a poor brand or poor consistency is you communicate that this brand isn't as professional as others in the market. And there's an unconscious communication.
Absolutely, yeah. Consistency is key because you need to it's the recognition of a reputation. Once you see this visual identity, you know what you're getting time after time after time, and yeah, the consistency of how everything looks is so important to help the customers. Realise what they're getting.
I guess it helps the business owner and their staff be pragmatic about design decisions or even product decisions because it needs to adhere to the brand guidelines. And if it doesn't, then they're veering off course. They're not maintaining that consistency. So in some way, it's an assistance beyond just the visual appeal to their customers.
There's varying degrees of brand guidelines. There's simple brand guidelines on all the visual assets, or there's the brand bibles, which goes into the full brand experience, talking about tone of voice, how things into social media, how the brand of the social media should be portrayed, even down to things like sound icons like the Intel, do 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 ding. Even the brand has become massive, even to the degree of having smells, recognisable smells of a brand squirted in the doorways of shops, for instance. I remember Hollister did it many years ago, just to keep the enticement. The enticement in. So it's a complete branding is a complete sensory overload of attraction.
So, and where do you start with that? Like, if somebody's new to this, because they would need to bring this information to someone like yourself. If you don't have that, where do you start?
As I've said throughout all of this, asking questions, asking the deep level questions from the start. That's the only way to bring a brilliant brand and its identity forward. And there's one thing I would say that a solid brand and its identity gives that money can't buy, that is confidence. A brilliant brand identity brings forward confidence. If you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, people notice. And it's having confidence in pride in how you look, but not externally to your audience and anybody that looks into the brand and is attracted by the brand, but not only that, but everybody that works within that brand, attracting new people into the business, new employees, and it just gives this whole sense of confidence and pride in the business when it looks good.
That's interesting. So the branding is influential not only externally but internally as well.
Absolutely, it is. Yeah. It attracts everybody. It attracts everybody, and once that recognition of that reputation is there, then it brings people in.
Fantastic, Warren. I really appreciate the knowledge that you brought here and the expertise. I genuinely mean that. And if our audience wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that? Where can they find you?
Yeah, sure. Well, my website is www.browncreative.co.uk. That's brown as in the colour, creative, one word. Instagram is browncreative, one word. And my email is warren@browncreative.co.uk. So, yeah, please get in touch.
Thank you for watching. I hope that was useful to you. I know that it's going to make me think about my branding. And if you found this useful, please like, subscribe, share it. Leave us a rating on Apple Podcasts if you can. It makes a huge difference to the algorithm. Really appreciate you getting to the end. And if you're not subscribed, hit that link, hit the bell so you can find out when the next episode goes live.